Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments. And tonight we are looking at the Valkyrie, the Beast, the Dorito. Here it is. It's the main fuselage wing assembly. You can see I've sprayed the underside black with rattle can just to get me ahead of the game. First of all, though, let's just see who's in chat. Gian, sorry, I've got my camera, my second camera, slightly in the way of where the chat is. Is that G&A or Q&A? Scale Model Apprentice. Welcome, anyway, whichever it is. I can't see because the cable is covering part of the letter. Jonak, welcome. Steve, nice to see you. Julian, good evening. We've got David Markey, welcome as always. Gremlins Modeling Mayhem, Gary, welcome. Who else do we have? Scroll down. Ian Ellison, welcome. Alex Moore, good evening. And I think that's just about gets us up. John Christmas, hello. And Stuart, welcome. I keep thinking it's ending and then more people come in. So Hayden, nice to see you. And I think that brings me up to the present. So welcome everybody. And it won't be the final session for this this aircraft because painting it is going to be quite an experience. We're not going to get to painting it tonight. Obviously, I have done some rattle can black. So this is an Autotech matte black, which can be used as a primer. I've just used it as kind of a primer and second coat. You see, I have filled and sanded all of this. It's not perfect, but it's black and it's going to be like this. So you're not really going to see that much. It's good enough. This seam proved to be a big trench, which I filled. You can see I went over it with, I sanded it, went over it with Tamiya Extra Thin. It actually split here because this is stabbing himself with a plane. This wasn't properly glued down. So this part of the engine assembly, about 25 millimeters, maybe about an inch in, actually attaches to the fuselage. And that wasn't glued down properly. So I had to kind of lift it up, put a load of Tamiya Extra Thin in there and squash it down and clamp it. And that just split that. So I am going to have to put a bit more sprue goo on there and just sand that over. But that seam was bad, but it is, for the most part, done. I'm not too worried about that because I come to the body section. For some reason, it went off for a second there. So I have put this in. It's not actually fully in. It's just placed in. It's not glued there at the moment. I just put it there because I still got to put the cockpit instrument panel in. This little beast. I just wanted to see the fit. And the fit of this piece actually isn't too bad. It's probably the best fitting piece of the entire kit, to be honest. I now hope I can get it out. To be honest, it shouldn't be too much trouble. But anyway, that was a bit of an aside to the fact that this has to fit on here, and the fit there is pretty damn bad. So that's going to need a lot of filling anyway. Now, in order to stop the splitting, which I feel may have been a mistake now, I did put a lot of sprue goo. As you can see, in the underside to support that whilst I was sanding it. So that took a lot to get this finish. So if you're a member of the channel and you're on the Discord channel, you will have seen me working on this seam, and that's good. I have to ask where it is. This seam around here, this is where it joins. Not quite where these vents are, just a little bit back from that. You can just pick it up, but again, when it's got the Southeast Asia camouflage on it, you shouldn't be able to see that. If it was white, it would probably need a bit more work, but the advantages of doing a what-ifs scheme. So because I'm going to have to do quite a lot of filling and associated sanding there, I'm not too worried about that back piece being, split and having to do the sanding on that, because it's going to require quite a bit anyway. So a few other things. The canards, I've actually, as you can see, scored. They're not cut through. They're just scored with a razor saw, because one of the things I did notice, if you look at the preserved examples, these canards, when the aircraft is static, do actually droop. So, and quite dramatically, actually, which is quite good, because I think that will allow us to sort of use them to position the canards, just stop them drooping here, because that provides a little angle. So that's quite handy. The really awkward part of that, I'm going to see if I can get my extra cam going here. Yeah, here we go. Let's add that on so I can show you this. In fact, let me put it on super zoom. Right, so you can see there the tab. In fact, let me show you on the one that's not cut. You see the tab actually extends across where that canard flap is. What a pain. So I had to cut. Oh, actually, sorry, let me add that back. You can see I've had to cut the tab, keep the tab there, because you don't want to remove the tab, because that actually slots into the airframe, so you'd have to fill it otherwise. But essentially what I did, I'll show you here. So I used my razor saw. So I had to go and cut along here to start with, to get to that level, which isn't easy, to try and keep it as flush as possible. Especially not easy to do it when you're doing it at arm's length to show on the stream. But yeah, I had to cut it along there before then scoring along this line, which I just did with a razor saw, just going along here, not cutting entirely through, but just scoring it with a razor saw, top and bottom, just so that I could get it to the point where I could bend it. It's not there yet, but that's what I did for the canard. The vertical stabilizers, these actually fit quite well, surprisingly. Let me just get all this trash out of the way here. Oh, that's all of the undercarriage doors, obviously. White on one side, black on the other. But these aren't too bad. These slots did need a bit of trimming, because these are really tight. And there is a slight cant to them. The other side, didn't fit at all. And I can show you why. You can't really see it now because I've trimmed it, but I can tilt this a little bit. No. Essentially, this side, the outermost side, is where this fuselage piece joins. And this was partially obscured by the fuselage, so I had to just trim the edge actually inside, which was interesting, to be able to get the vertical fin to fit. That's just the bag that transparency came in. But actually, let's move the transparency out. I didn't think we'd have much trouble getting it out. Let's put it back in that bag till we need it. Keep it nice and pristine. As always, if you guys have any questions, put question in big capital letters or comments. Again, the same, just so I spot them. But it's all too easy to miss when you are trying to model as well as do this. Let's see if I can show you. Also, apologies because it is a real pain to try and manipulate this all the time. So in here, I had to trim that so this would go in. It's still very tight fit. You can see it does give quite a nice positive. If anything, that's probably slightly too canted because of that fuselage side. But it's not too bad. Not too bad at all, that. Right. Just trying to find how to put things on is the main trouble here. That sound is Pablo being fed. If anybody wondered. Mark, good evening. You're never late. You always arrive at exactly the right time. Alex, good evening. Dan, good evening too. And have I missed anybody? I don't think so. If I have, oh, Phil, good evening. Just pop your that I missed you in the comments, and I'll get back to you. Right, let's get that out of the way. So I think the major thing for tonight is getting this attached to the main fuselage. That was me dropping the mouse onto the fuselage. Not a good start. So let's clear a bit of space. I don't think I need my water or my thinner or the zoom lens for the moment, or the transparency. Let's get all of that out of the way. So I think also it's time to put this in. So this should be fairly straightforward if I can actually get it at the right angle, because I've put it in here a couple of times. It actually sits in quite nicely in the right position. So you can see that fits okay. It's all good. Might just need to touch up the black on there, but other than that, it seems good. Let's actually go ahead and glue that in. Let me take myself. Worked out how to do it now. there isn't a lot of room, a lot of wiggle room for this to go in, which is kind of a bonus when you're putting it at this stage. There we go. So yeah, I need to touch up the black. Oops. Come on, camera, focus. There we go. So yeah, I need to touch up the black. I really like this this black. Obviously, I have sanded, filled all of these. It didn't look like that originally. You can kind of tell from the little remnant of the seam at the front there. It does have the pitot tube to go on, of course. That's already sprayed black. So the way I'm going to paint this will be very much like an F111. I think that's probably the easiest way. So this is obviously, this is in War Thunder because it's one of the only ones I got which actually shows an F111 with swept wings. This is obviously Southeast Asia scheme, and it has the Dorito shape, so I can get most of the camouflage shape from this. And then there were some 104s, F104s, which had a Southeast Asia as well, which I'm going to kind of use the long fuselage. So you can imagine sticking an F104 Starfighter on the front instead of this nose. That's kind of what I'm going to go for. I think that will be the closest I can get to potentially how this aircraft would have looked in Southeast Asia camo. Okay, right. My spray mask just in case I get to that stage. Oh, and of course we have the winglets. The winglets, which are the size of a normal aircraft's wings, or larger, in fact. So we should be able to get those on tonight as well, all things being equal. So let's get this paper out of the way. Oh, that fits there quite nicely. So this obviously has a bit of a trench along the side. Oh yeah, it wasn't quite located before. That's it does have some guiding pieces inside to get it at the correct angle, which aren't quite lining up. There we go. You can tell when they do, because it makes that clonking sound. So we do have, you know, some pretty big gaps that are going to need filling there. Now, I may have introduced some of that from putting this in, but if I didn't put this in, then I wouldn't be able to sand this without it splitting. So kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. I should have. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to need contactor for this. Tamiya extra thin is not going to cut it. And if we've got contactor, we need to make sure it's clear, obviously. So obviously the easiest way to clean a needle on one of these is to just do that, is just to burn out the excess but you have to wait until this is cool before putting anything through, because otherwise it will just dry out and clog up again. So, of course, yesterday I was wearing a cardigan because it was pretty damn chilly here in the southwest last night. Tonight, well, today it's been in excess of 30 degrees. So that's that high 80s Fahrenheit. Sunshine, gloriously hot. It's just, this is why the English talk about weather so much, because we have a lot of it. You know, you can never predict entirely what it's going to be. Actually, for a lot of the day, I had Plains TV on, watching, well, not watching, but you know, it was there in the background. I was listening to the arrivals and some of the discussion around the aircraft for Freiheit. Of course, the Royal International Air Tattoo this weekend. Obviously, they do extended arrivals. Always used to just be the Saturday and the Sunday. Now, of course, they've extended to the Friday as well. I won't be going this year because of funding, but it's and obviously they stream the show on their paid service. Right, well, so far it's holding. I feel though this is going to need clamping. Don't think this is going to hold by itself by any stretch of the imagination. I'll try the burner clamps to start with to see if they do it, but I'm not sure they're going to have the power. I can't even get them in at the moment. Just move that up a bit. It's also quite a wide area to try and clamp between. Julian, I've never tried a soldering iron. Just buy some disposable lighters. They're useful for other things. They're cheap, so you know you can anneal etched parts, etched brass with a lighter as well. So you know, if you don't smoke, it will last for ages. I mean, Maria's given up smoking, so this is obviously one of hers. I don't think she specifically bought it because it was pink, but yeah, that's where I stole it from. She doesn't have any real use for it anymore. So the problem with this, of course, is that to try and clamp this, you have to get across this area. I don't think I've got any clamps big enough to bridge that gap. The good news is, at the other end, the burner clamp is doing a good job. You see, I can't get it in any further than that, I'm afraid. You just have to trust me. But that is not actually too bad. I mean, obviously, huge trench, but the important thing I think for me is that this profile is about right. I mean, there is quite a you know, a gap here again, which is going to need some work, but that is far more problematic than just filling in this, which can be done pretty easily with thin sprue glue, even if you have to go over it 2 or 3 times, which will minimize sanding. Okay. Well, objective 1 complete. Now, will we be able to get the winglets the canards and these on. I'm in two minds whether to put these on or not with the sanding that I got to do down there. Might be easier to leave them off. Yes, absolutely, Dan. It was repurposed, not stolen. Because the thing is with a soldering iron is it probably would get its temperature, but really it's the flame, because you really want to. What you're actually doing is burning the stuff out. You're not really heating it; you're burning it. So. That is a another good one. A pin. If you've got a thin, if you can get little brass pins, which are thin enough to go down here, I just don't have the patience really. I would lose the pin or end up sticking it somewhere or whatever. But that certainly does work. And actually, if you want to unplug it, you can use a wire as well. If you've got a wire that will go down the lumen of that, which is pretty thin, you can see that. Oh, look, that's actually just about got it in focus. If your eyes and hand-eye coordination is good enough to put it down there, of course, which is another issue maybe. But I can't do this on that camera. I'm going to have to show it on the big one. There she is. The alignment is pretty good, I think, which is obviously helped by those, trapping it between those guides and the edges there. That is not bad, but you can see, I mean, even from this distance, that you can see that that's not just shadow. It's shadow in a trench. See, that is the effect you're trying to recreate with a panel line. Not that deep. But it is a monstrous beast. I mean, look at that. Now, I think I'm going to do winglets next because I don't want to mess with the canards at the end there, particularly. So these are pretty easy. They just, now that they're, and again, I did have to sand. Let's see if I can show you on those. These have, you may not be able to see it too well. The fit wasn't, it was as good as the other wings. You can see the seam there. So it's better than it was. I haven't tried too hard. I've improved it, but I haven't, made it seamless. If you really wanted to, if you're going to enter a competition, display it or something with the underside visible, then yeah, you could do a lot more on that. But that is good enough for this project. But actually, the fit onto the wing isn't bad. That looks okay. So these big tabs definitely help. Although, as you can see, they did have massive ejector pin, positive ejector pin marks that I actually had to cut off for them to fit. Yeah, but that trench on either side is about 2 millimeters wide. Oh, well, let's see. It's definitely 2 millimeters. It might be 2.5 millimeters. So if you think 1/72 scale, that means every millimeter is 72 millimeters on the real thing. So it's actually about 6 inches wide, that scale inch. 6 inches. I mean, that is, you know, something that you can comfortably put your hand in without touching either side. Is not great engineering, I would suggest. But okay, obviously I have sprayed on this, and that's a little bit too much to actually scrape off. So let's just get some of these little sandy sticks. So the video I have queued up for I think it's tomorrow, is a condensation of the B26 build. So if you weren't around for the the whole 26 hours that I spent on the B26, and you just want to see a condensed version of kind of how things went, that's what that video is. So if you saw it all, there's nothing new. Spoilers. But if you haven't, and for the audience out there, obviously you haven't seen the content at all, it'll be completely new. You can see the evolution of that build over the 26 hours in half an hour. So each minute is each hour is a minute, and now obviously the intro and the outro. So my kind of thoughts at the end, just pull it out from 26 minutes to the 30, which is a reasonable YouTube video length. Now that would be quite a good that'd be quite a good little diorama, wouldn't it? You could get like tiny. I could actually probably 3D print some like 2mm X-wings and TIE fighters and have them going down there. Too much for the kind of light-heartedness of this build, I feel. So it doesn't really matter. I'm just using, what is this, 180 grade sandpaper on this because I don't care about the finish here. In fact, actually having a rough surface is actually advantageous, so it gives more for the glue to more grooves for the glue to go into and work on. And again, I'm going to use contactor here because to me extra thin would probably be okay, but this gives you a bit more working time, which will result in a stronger bond. The hardest bit of this actually tonight is trying to get the room to show you what's going on. Come on, focus, thank you. So these pieces on the actual aircraft are black. It's kind of a cover for the hinge mechanism, I think. Probably some sort of, I don't know what it is actually. It won't be rubber. I don't think rubber is Mark III rated. There was a little bit of vagueness in the fit here, but then that's been common throughout this kit. Oops, there goes the clamp at the front. Fortunately, I don't think I need it now. I think we've got enough of a bond. Yeah, I mean, I could use my main webcam to show you the kind of scope of this, but then you kind of lose what I'm actually doing. So I think at the moment we'll stick with this and maybe change if that's not really giving you the right kind of view. Also, as well, I've used a lot of glue on this project. It's not a complex build. You know, there aren't actually many steps in the instructions here. It's just all of the mating surfaces are huge. You know, you're actually having to support a decent amount of weight on some of these, so you definitely need to make sure that you've got a good bond. The tricky bit, I think, is going to be making sure that these are at the right angles and look like each other. It's funny actually, because these are quite tapered across there. They're not just straight. They have quite an interesting profile. And they do actually sort of slightly go up at the end. You would think that they went down, but they don't. I'm not 100% convinced by the contactor doing everything it's supposed to here. Hence the extra thin. We get some capillarity working for us. Same here, there's definitely no bond there. I think I mentioned before, this is the format I've got for the new, this is my cement, and it's in these little rectangular nail varnish bottles. That one doesn't have any labels on it, so of course I don't need to label it for myself. But the advantage of that is when I can work out how to do differential shipping in Shopify, I can classify it as a different term, like shipping level, because this can be shipped out large letter, which would be cheaper for people if they just want to buy, you know, cement. Rather than having to pay, you know, £5 to get some, you know, on top of cement, or having to get a whole load of other stuff. Okay, well, the winglets are on. They appear to be at kind of the right angle. Check from the back. Well, they look about the same, which I think is as good as I can ask at the moment. So I'm going to put this down where you guys can't see it, because it's the only place that it will fit for the time being. And then, so that is the, I think that's going to be the port canard, so I need to work on this one. Question from Julian. I will answer it in a second when I can find where I've just put my razor saw. Well, I once saw a YouTube video of a guy using masking fluid to protect areas to be glued, then painting, taking off the masking fluid, and then gluing the parts. Too much faff or a good idea? I think it depends. So check your masking fluid to make sure that it is not going to gum up with it, because I've used masking fluid before with a rattle can, and the solvent in the rattle can went through the masking fluid and completely destroyed the well, it just basically, the masking fluid became this gloopy mess. It was mascal, actually. Became this gloopy mess. I had to kind of scrape off the canopy and then completely polish up the canopy again. So it's not a bad idea, but you just need to test it. Is it too much faff? I have used masking tape to protect parts. So say if I was gluing these two pieces, you can mask each side and then do it. The problem is, if you're using extra thin, it can then be drawn in by capillarity with masking fluid. This is fairly aggressive solvent. So test whether it will go through your masking fluid, because not all masking fluids are equal. Mostly latex based, but it's what else they put in there. If it's going to conjugate with this, or this is going to melt it, that's going to be horrible. For me, if I'm using this, providing you're not going absolutely mad with it, if you get a little bit spilled, it'll evaporate and you will never notice. Once you've got a coat of paint on it, you won't be able to tell. If you get too much on and it actually melts the plastic, yeah, you'll have to sand it. It really depends on what you're doing. If this brush is too big for something or too small for something, I'll use a paintbrush. So just a normal paintbrush. Humbrol paintbrushes are quite good for it, actually. So don't go putting the whole thing in there, because then again you will dissolve the glue holding the. You don't want a whole ferrule in. You just want to put the end in. It's solvent, so it will just evaporate off. So obviously not with this. Don't use a paintbrush with this. You'll ruin your paintbrush. But a paintbrush with this, if you're using it sparingly, not putting the whole thing in. And the same with paint. The reason you don't put the whole thing in is if you get stuff up into they call it ferrule. This is the ferrule of the brush. That's where the brushes are. So all of these are glued in at some point here. If you get this solvent on that glue, probably dissolve it. If you get paint up there, it's very difficult to clean it out. Master's brush cleaner, Master's brush soap, I would recommend everybody gets a little tub. They're about this big. Let me get the question off so you can see. They're about this big, kind of a little bit bigger than the Tamiya paint pot, like the old 23mm paint pots, really, but shallower. It's about £12, I think, for one of those. It'll last you forever. And it's just amazing stuff. You can take brushes that are completely caked up and dry and restore them. Perhaps not back to exactly how they were before, as new, but pretty damn good. So I also don't know where I put my razor saw. Oh, I've dropped it on the floor there. There we go. So it's this side. I wondered why it was so shadowy and dark here. It's because I've not got these lights on. Apologies, everybody. There we go. There we go. Now we've got some proper lighting. Operator error. So I'm just using the knife just to scrape out the kind of edges there. Yeah, the razor saw has just kind of raised them up so that it's nice and smooth. Come on, give us a bit of bend, a bit of flex, a bit more. Okay. Let's use the bigger side. So these razor saws are two-edge. This one is from, I think it's CMK. Yeah, CMK. CMKkits.com. So they do various different saws. Obviously, this is just a square one. They're quite useful for rescribing as well as other razor saw type stuff. But they have a very fine edged blade. In fact, I'll show you on the macro lens. You can see this is the fine edged. And then this is the larger edged. I think we've been a little bit too kind to it. Let's use the large one. Because this is actually, these canards are quite thick. Nothing about this aircraft was subtle. Just trying to make sure that I don't go through here though, and not go through here, because obviously plastic is much thicker at this end than that end. And also try not to do what I've done, just go off the edge slightly there and try and scribe a new panel line, which is not what I wanted. Okay, I might swap them around and have that as the underside of this side. And then have that one this way. There we go. I'm not doing anything fancy with these. I'm not going to put any mechanism or, try and represent anything more than literally just scoring it, taking a little bit of the edge off, just chamfering it really. There we go. Good enough. God damn it, I did it on both the same way. That one's worse. Okay. That one. I'll use a little bit of sprue glue along there. I certainly could do that. I mean, it certainly didn't need to, did it? Welcome everybody who's joined. Since I read out everybody, I've lost who was in and who was out. I think Richard, I'm not sure, but welcome. Nostalgic Magic, welcome. Paul, welcome. I don't think I've missed too many, but let's just see, make sure nothing's gone weird with the cement. Interesting. Okay. That all looks okay, if not great. Would help if the winglet pieces were actually flat, but they're not. Which is slightly disappointing, but what I'm going to do. If I bring this in, put it down a second. Let me take you on a little mobile voyage. Let me put the macro cam so you can see how bad this join is. That is the gap. So it is substantial, shall we say. I mean, up here, it's not quite as bad. Sorry, the focus isn't great because the curve of this is. Let's see if we can do it without the macro. There we go. You can see how big it is there. That's a big gap. In fact, it even looks worse there, doesn't it? It's huge. Big old gap. Interesting, these winglets, there's good contact here. This is kind of not actually touching the wing, and this is not actually touching the wing. And you can see I can wiggle it up and down. So I'm going to have to put sprue goo in those gaps, I think. They're not, it'll be very difficult to try and pull them in without that. And if I push this end, it's pushing that end. Let's see. But overall, you know, it certainly gives the impression of the aircraft. Interesting, that's only on that starboard side. The port side is fine. Right. Let's have a look at some instructions. Right, we obviously have the landing gear. I've sprayed. These need assembling, obviously. But that's something we can come on to. I need to paint the wheels. So I painted the interiors. I need to make masks for the hubs to then spray them black. So you can see, really, so I did 4 off camera, 5 and 6 is what I struggled through last time, and 7 with the instructions showing it the wrong way up. This all went in, then that was what put it together. So not very many steps to get kind of big pieces of this done. That is what we've just done. These bits are the ones I did off camera. This is the alternative where you've got that sort of hinged section cover, well, these covers over the hinged section. Obviously, these sort of aerodynamic fairings, so that the hinges weren't exposed to Mark III air. So this little piece is actually one of those that is with the this piece, this fairing. So that's not part of the undercarriage. That just happened to be there when I sprayed them. We can pop that on, and then we've got canards. I can cement these in position. We can see where we're up to. So that piece on the front is that one. So I think undercarriage wise we're all good. It's just going to be a fairly simple matter of putting it all together. I would still be quite tempted though to get another of these kits and rework it into a kind of stealth version. You know, put this on the top of the fuselage, take this off, kind of rework this into that front, make the air intakes on the side so that they feed in. I think that'd be quite cool. And it would probably only take the same amount of filler. I mean, this is very AMT. These huge. I mean, let's just see. These are ejector pin, positive ejector pin marks that you can actually cut off with single-bladed nippers. That's crazy. Yeah, it does kind of, if you wanted to do kind of an accurate XB-70 as well, it does miss a lot of the stuff that's on the actual aircraft. The actual aircraft, in fact, let me pull it up here. So I was looking at it earlier. No, I don't want to start Excel, thank you. So this is the one that's at Patterson Air Force Base, which is ship 1, I believe. I think it was ship 2 that got destroyed. So if I just zoom in, look, you've got all these little pitot tube antennas. You can see there's actually like these handles on the door, the detail there that you could add in. To me, this is very F-111 like, though, the kind of shape of this nose, aardvark like. These are the ejection door covers. You can just see. So there is some raised detail on the kit for these. It all got obliterated when I did the sanding for that, and I was okay with that because they aren't really as prominent as the kit shows, and they're not raised really. There's that droop on the canards, quite pronounced when it's sitting. Pretty interesting, the texture on the skin. Funnily enough, no massive ridge in the fuselage like ours. And you can't really see it here, the canting. These I don't believe are actually on the or were on the operational aircraft. I think those are put in when it's standing, because I think these actually move, these surfaces. So I think these are put on to stop them moving while it's parked. And you can see here are those black covers that cover those winglet bits, and see how they sort of flare up a little bit. Interesting aircraft. Now, with a what if, you know, you could kind of say that these got removed or repositioned or something, because this was a research aircraft, of course, after all. Or we could stick them in. I don't think I'm going to stick any in. It's kind of got enough. Okay. So there we go. That's not bad. It is like a Dorito, though. Look at it. Big flying Dorito. Huge. But you can see, you know, it could, to me, it could easily be kind of made into a kind of stealth aircraft without the long, you know, very radar reflective tube at the front. You know, if this was kind of at the top, and this part obviously extended so that this nose is kind of at this front piece, so that it kind of ends at here, kind of goes up into that, and then have, instead of these exhausts, the kind of on each side going through to the jets, which then go through between those two surfaces here, which could actually be canted out a little bit more. And actually could put these down, would kind of make it a little more sort of futuristic and stealthy. That'd be quite a cool what if as well. The XB-72 something. So this is the little, let me put you on big screen again. So this is that little, whatever it is, vent thing. It just fits on there. We're going to need to get those out of the way. We're going to need to scrape some primer off to do that properly. Apologies if that noise sets your teeth on edge. It does with some people. It doesn't bother me, but I mean, kind of about the same fit as a lot of this kit. I think we can do probably some blending in here. In fact, let's just put the glue on to start with. Have they got any in? Choose contactor. There we go. Yeah, there's a bit of blending in at the front, but otherwise it's not too bad. Okay, so which did we decide? I think it was this way round, right? Yeah, I believe the Soviets actually stole the plans for this. There was some espionage, and a lot of the design elements of this were incorporated, used by Tupolev in the design of their Konkordsky. And if you think, it had those little, actually even stranger canards. It had these little eyebrow. I think it's called eyebrow or mustache canards, which actually folded out from the top of the fuselage. There were sort of little pieces that actually went out, which is a really novel kind of concept. Quite cool. Didn't really work, of course, as the Tupolev was not a success. And of course, famously crashed at the Paris Air Show. Okay, just taking off camera so I can get the right angle. So as I said, having these down kind of gives us a little bit of an angle that we can then use to stabilize. That's pretty good. I think I'm good with that. It's weird because it almost looks off when you're looking at it from above, but actually from the front it works. Ooh, I just pushed that off. God damn it. I did realise there wasn't as much extra thin in that bottle as I thought there was, because I used it to fill up my Tamiya bottle. So I've only got a tiny bit in the bottom. I didn't get much, if any, before. There. That should actually stay there now. So yeah, just need to touch up that black. Okay. So we're kind of almost there. There she is. How far do I have to go to move it back? Kind of behind my head to get it on screen. You should be able to hopefully see. I can get it straight. Those wingtips kind of go a little bit into the background, but you can see they just sort of flick up. It's difficult to see because the background is almost the same color as this. There's a grey. Yeah, definitely some gaps that are needed addressing, as well as the trench on the fuselage. But the overall shape of it, I'm quite pleased with. Right, let me have a look at chat, because I've ignored it for all of that. Okay, we've had some more people pop in while I wasn't looking. Craig, welcome. Good evening, Paul. people having to shoot off, which is fine. Sorry, I'm trying to negotiate between my close-up camera. Mario, welcome. Question, what would you compare your own brand glue to? It's exactly the same as Tamiya Extra Thin. So Tamiya Extra Thin is 50% acetone, 50% butyl acetate, which is what mine is. So it's identical. And if you are physically coming into the shop, I can fill up your Tamiya Extra Thin as well, if you prefer that. There was an alternate designation, the RS-70, standing for Reconnaissance Stroke Strike. There was also the RS-71, but during a press release, someone flipped the letters, giving us the SR-71. Oh, interesting. Question, if this wasn't the largest aircraft you've built, what was? To be honest, I think it is the largest aircraft I've built. I have a Tu-160, the White Swan, the Russian strategic bomber that was kind of a response to the B2, sorry, the B1, and then some of the experience with this, and then the B1 that came out, and obviously they had the Tu-22, the blinder, sometimes referred to as a Tu-16. Which is also I think it was called the booze cruiser because it had a big coolant tank that used alcohol, and they tended to land with much less coolant. People used to drink it. I think they actually sometimes use vodka instead of the alcohol they should have used. And then the Tu-22M, which is the current Tupolev that they're using, obviously in Ukraine. Used for strike cruise missile strikes and stuff. And then the White Swan was kind of the one after that. They haven't got very many, but it's huge. It's vast. Yeah, I mean a B-29 doesn't come close really. Obviously, much bigger wingspan. I've got a B-29 and a B-50, which is the super Fortress. I think before that, the biggest ones I've done. Is it the YB-49, the Flying Wing? Same wingspan as the B2. In fact, that's upstairs, where I used to stream from. Maybe I'll show that on the next one. Yeah, those are kind of biggies I think I've done. Yes. There are several kits available of the Firefox. So a couple that I know of from a company called Anagrand Craftwork. I think they're based out of Hong Kong. They do a 172nd and they do a 148th, which is huge. You'll see it occasionally at shows. There was one at the Yeovil show back in April. And they're expensive though, because they're resin kits. So they're big and expensive and heavy. And obviously shipping has to come from Hong Kong. So yes, it was a nice hat, even bigger than John's. Righty. So you can get a 1144 scale kit of this. I think it's like a Great Wall, I think, or one of the Chinese manufacturers. HPH, like High Plains models, I think, do a 148 scale XB-70. I mean, that's going to be half as big again. I mean, nobody's got room for this, never mind about 148 scale. It's pretty cool, though. I mean, that would have put the fear of God into you, wouldn't it? Coming in low level at Mach 1. And it has this really cool sliding bomb bay. If you can see it now. These rails here, this is for sliding bomb bay. Maybe if I tip it so that you can see, there we go. This big cover here. You have these rails that go back. Now, obviously you can't open bay doors at Mark III because they just get ripped off. So the whole thing was designed to slide back and then the payload come out. And of course, it was supposed to be a nuclear strike aircraft, so you didn't have to carry that many to be effective. Wow. 144 pounds. That's yeah, $188, and then you'll have to pay import duty on that. Yeah, that's a lot. Let's see if I can get anagram craft work. I've had stuff of anagram before. He sells on eBay. We used to sell on eBay. We used to do kind of what if stuff. Here we go. This is the website. Let me put it on screen. To stop that one before I can add more, apparently. Yeah, so this is the anagram craftswork website. So it's just anagram.com. So yeah, they're out of Hong Kong. So things like this. The proposed Tempest 6th generation UK aircraft intended to replace the Typhoon. So the kind of stuff, like what if stuff or like leading edge, cutting edge stuff, they do a lot of. Let's see if we can find. What's it going to be under? So yeah, I mean, I've got this one, for instance, the Lippisch LIP13, which is really tiny. And when I bought it, it wasn't $38. And also the exchange rate was a lot better. So, inflation and global markets have not been kind to this. But you can get really cool stuff like the A-12, the Avenger, the proposed Navy strike aircraft. Yeah, cool stuff like that. Let's just see. Actually, let's just. Do they have a search function? Maybe not. There we go. MiG-31 Firefox. Oh, this is a 1:144 scale. So a little one. They also do it in 172 and 148. So yeah, $188. International shipping, $38 for the 48 scale. But they are nice kits, but they are all resin. So I would suggest to put a 48 scale resin kit together. You're going to need a lot of 5-minute epoxy. I wouldn't put it together with super glue. So, they're interesting. But $188 plus $38 shipping, and you will pay import duty. It's a lot. But yeah, I remember watching it in the Cold War with Clint Eastwood. Thinking Russian. And him having his Vietnam flashbacks. My mum loved Clint Eastwood. So we watched anything and everything with Clint Eastwood in it. Yeah. So 200, yeah, New Zealand dollars aren't real. We know all your Antipodean money is fake. Yeah, let me just put the website just in for everybody. It's Annie Grand. So very simple. There we go. If anybody fancies having a nose at it. Okay. Right. Let's see what we've got in terms of, we've got sprue goo here. It's probably the one thing I've forgotten to get. The one thing that I need quite a lot of. She's a beast. Oh, I'll tell you what we haven't done is glued those. Be right back. Pressing the wrong buttons. Why is that gone there now? There we go. Right, I have my not really Tamiya thin. I don't know what I've done with my sprue goo, but I think I want this to have a chance to dry before I start slopping that about anyway. But I do want to put some Tamiya extra thin in these winglet joins. I refer to it as Tamiya extra thin, even though it's my glue. Because as I say, it's chemically identical. So see how those don't really fit? Because it is just a butt joint at that point. It would have been nice. I know they've got those great big tabs in the middle, but it would have been nice if they'd also had something at each end. This kit wasn't designed by a modeler. I can almost be certain of that. Okay, I'm a little bit more convinced about the fit there. Not so much on this one at the rear, though. Let's just put this one in solo. Oh, congratulations, Mark. Airfix Avro Shackleton. That's a relatively new kit as well, isn't it? I must admit the Shackleton has never really appealed to me. But this is why, you know, modeling is an individual hobby, and with there being so many kits out there, you pay your money, you take your choice. Or, as in your case, you're gifted something and you're extremely happy. So I'm very pleased for you. Do let us know how you get on with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think these are going to get any better without. You see, one of the things with sprue goo, and I mean generally, not just the stuff you can buy from me. This isn't just a shameless plug, though of course I will plug it. The thing is with sprue goo is you can make it, like the sprue goo thin I've got, you can make it so that it's effectively a thick glue. So if you look at something like Contactor, and not sure if it says it on here, probably not, but if you get the MSDS for this, it'll say in it that it's got styrene in it, because it has. So that's what thickens most glues, is plastic, styrene. So obviously it's clear styrene, which is why it's clear, or dries in that sort of jelly, sort of vaguely clear, sometimes a little bit yellow. So sprue goo, obviously coloured, has the dye in, because styrene isn't coloured to start with. You add pigment to it to colour it. So you can make thin sprue goo, which is just basically gap filling plastic cement. That's all it is, really. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to do here is, along with that, is obviously just run thin sprue goo in along here, and let it find its level, set, run more in, just so that it builds up. That's what I'll do with these. And this one I'll probably put just the standard stuff, just because it will speed it up and I can sand that off. And I'll put a little bit in there. Anyway, what I was going to do is actually cement these. Move that across here a little bit. Let's see if it'll go. Come on, put these things out of the way. No, I don't have a room. Let me move this down. There we go. So you've still got quite a bit of flex there. Right, let's get these vertical stabilizers. So we'll let capillary action do most of the work there. So yeah, if you see me be quite generous with cement in this manner, it's because I am just relying on capillary action to draw it in. And this stuff, if you can see, but like here, I just put Tamiya extra thin on here to smooth this out after I sanded it. Also gets rid of any little particles. And you can see it's discolored the plastic, and it's a bit shiny now because it's kind of melted it and done that. But you put a coat of paint and primer over that, and you won't see it. It hasn't changed really anything other than slightly smoothing out the surface. But yeah, I'll put some thin sprue goo on that, and that should be as done. God, trying to maneuver this thing now is not easy. What I always think is amazing about aircraft like, the XB-70, like an Airbus or a 747, is one person, one human, is controlling that huge piece of machinery. I mean, it's like if you've ever driven anything larger than a car, it does feel unwieldy, So it must be weird to have that. That's weird. Sorry, my screen's going lighter or darker. All I'm doing is moving my mouse, which is wireless. There must be some The wireless part must be interfering with something strange. Anyway. I'm just looking through people chatting about. Oh, it's 2015 tooling. Okay, so it is just before Phoenix Asset Management came in. So anything I think post 2010 with Airfix is pretty good. Even if it's not quite up to the tooling that they're doing now, because I think they are improving all the time. I think 2010 onwards, you're in pretty good hands. Let me see. Evening, Paul. Oh, bumped into give a thumbs up. Thank you very much. That's most appreciated. That's very confusing, Alex. Emptying contactor into an empty Tamiya extra thin jar. So Tamiya obviously also do a standard cement, the white label, just normal cement, which I have and I never use. Also, look how dirty that is. Odd bits of old dissolved sprue and paint, I think. Yep, I think a small gap is acceptable, but yeah, steps are pretty bad. And indeed, Julian, chasms are indeed a deeper issue, and that certainly was a chasm, wasn't it? Okay. I think we're coming up to the limits of what I'm going to be able to do this evening. I think let's get some Tamiya, Vallejo. Let's get some Vallejo black and just quickly touch up that instrument panel. We could actually get the transparency on. I can't really do this on camera. I'm sorry, guys. I can't actually see what I'm doing. There we go. I'll just put a lick of paint over that instrument panel cowling. Just so we haven't got any grey bits before I put the transparency on. I think I missed the transparency. I think probably. So where did I put it? As I said, the fit of this wasn't terrible. What I don't like about this transparency is you have nice framing for these windows. There is nothing on the sides, absolutely nothing. And yet, of course, the actual aircraft. Oh, no, I don't want that. Let me take us back to that Valkyrie. You see the actual aircraft has the side window and this little, well, it has a side front canopy and it has a little side window as well. That is not represented at all. Where's the mega macro lens? Let's show you. So you can see this is the framing on the canopy. All good, very distinct. Side, nothing. Not a sausage. Which means I've got to completely make it up. Also, you can see it's not 100% smooth, this canopy. It just shows you how good transparencies are now compared to when this kit was made. So this macro lens shows everything. There's a tiny thread there. Which is good, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen it. But so yeah, you know, masking these is going to be easy, and I'm going to have to make up the masking for the side, which is annoying more than anything. Not difficult, it's just annoying. Why can't you do it both? I'm just scraping and trimming this back because it was a really tight fit. And given that I will have to put a smidgen of filler, you know, sprue glue in there anyway, I just want to make it a little bit easier on myself. Use that macro lens again just to see. Is it nice and clean now? It's better. I think it's good. It's good enough for us. Okay. So this fit actually is quite positive. As I say, it's probably the best fitting piece in the entire kit, which is good actually, because doing sanding around this would have been a real pain. Right, let's put it on big screen and see how we look. Now we've got, yeah, look at that. Starting to look the part there. It's a cool looking aircraft, isn't it? God, it's big. Oh dear. I am actually quite looking forward to the to doing the camouflage, Southeast Asia camouflage. So what I'll probably do is off camera, I'll do all the sanding because that's boring and a tedious job. So I can do all of that off camera, and I'll probably mark it up and then do the spraying on a final session. So I can get the wheels masked up, I can get this marked out for the camouflage after it's all sanded and everything, and then a final session just doing spraying it up, putting the pretty limited decals on, sorry about that, and then just putting the undercarriage on. So I think that's probably all I'm going to achieve for this evening, because, as I say, the wheels, what I'm going to do, wrong camera, so moving this. So for these, because I've obviously sprayed and washed these, I have a template, a drill template. So I'll show you how I do this next time. Drill template, which I'll just like measure across here just to see what size I need. And then I'll just cut out masks out of 10mm tape, pop on those masks, and I'll spray all of the wheels at once using Outlaw because it'll be quick. And the front wheels are actually aluminium because they have aluminium impregnated tires. but the back ones are all black, all normal black rubber. I'm not quite sure about these ridges either. I don't think it had those, so I need to check. And if it doesn't, I'll remove them, which will be a ball ache, but because once those are done, then all these assemblies go together. These are all painted already. These will go together quite well, quite quickly. I won't say well, I'll say quickly, because given what else has happened with this kit, I don't think well is necessarily an appropriate word to use. And then I think these kind of, I haven't washed these, I need to wash them. They sort of fit kind of on here, like, I don't know, they fit on somehow. And then these are the front ones. So I don't think it'll take much to finish it once the main sanding bit's done. The main work is obviously in all of the prep. The actual kit itself is pretty simple, really. But that's where we are for tonight. So yes, it will go in the shop window. I've got a nice space for it on top of, well, I'm still waiting for the landlord to finish or not to finish, to even start replacing the windows. So I have 4 windows now that need replacing. I've only got 3 pieces of glass. I'm just going to ask them if I can do it myself. They'll pay for it. That's a very good question, John. And the reason that there is so much clear plastic in front of the window is because you have 2 alternate versions. And the second version is this one. Because on the actual aircraft, much like Concorde, the, what do you call it, sort of down position. So basically you had, we'll demonstrate using props. Here we go, if I can. So you had the plastic. It must be getting late. You had the transparency, the windscreen, and then you had this, the front piece, right? And then much like Concorde, so that was for maneuvering on the ground. And then much like Concorde, in supersonic flight, this piece lifted up and the windscreen moved so that it was not directly in flight. So this was for the aerodynamics. So you didn't melt the windscreen at Mach 3. And you didn't need to see at, the ridiculous altitude that this thing was supposed to have flown at Mach 3. You were instrument navigating anyway, so you didn't need to see out of the window. But that's why they give you 2 versions, because you can do an in-flight version. Now, of course, that was only ever raised during supersonic flight. So there's no point in having one that's on the ground with that, because it wouldn't happen. But that's the reason. So they give you the 2 versions so that you can have, if you wanted, wheels up and in flight. And I expect that's quite a popular option if you're going to make this kit for most people who don't have the room to store it anywhere other than on the ceiling, right? So an in-flight version of this, actually, I think would probably be pretty cool. That's also why they give you the option to have the winglets down, because these canted down at quite a steep angle. I think it was like 43 degrees or something, or even 47 degrees. So these kind of went down, and effectively this almost surfed its own supersonic bang, effectively compression wave. And those apparently help to contain that shock wave and sort of propel it forward. So again, pretty cool aircraft, pretty cool in terms of technology, especially for when it was designed. And the fact that it was actually ever even made. I'm kind of a little disappointed they didn't make the original concept. which I don't know if you guys know, the original concept of the XB-70, or the original concept of the aircraft. Just see if I can find a picture of it. I think it's on the wiki. Let's have a look. Yeah, here we go. This, love this. This is the original concept for the XB-70. If I can get to share the screen. There we go. That's the original proposal for the SAC bomber. So, mad looking thing. Absolutely insane. Yes, and these floating panels on the outer bit were to be ejected at subsonic speeds. So, yeah, a crazy, crazy thing. But look when it was designed, 1955. This thing was designed. The original, which is, you know, insane, really. Okay, I would love to go. So if I get the funds in the next couple of years to go over to the US, I'm going to do a little tour and visit John Alec and see. I've got a friend out in California. Might do a Gen Con or something. But yeah, I'd love to go to some of the US air bases or air shows or something. I think there's one at Wright Air Force Base, which is supposed to be pretty good. It does look very Ace Combat, that concept, doesn't it? I think there's another one. I think I think the latest Ace Combat is dropping soon, which is, for those of you who don't know, Ace Combat is kind of a future air combat game. It's very arcadey. It's not realistic at all, but it's quite cool. Some of the aircraft in it, and it's between, you know, nations which don't exist, like Eurasia. You know, all this kind of stuff, like the Pan SAC Alliance and stuff. Okay, cheers, Julian. Have a good one. I think we're pretty much at the end of the stream. I don't think there's anything else to do on the XB-70. If anybody has any questions, I'll take a few questions, but I can kind of show you some of the other things I'm doing. I have this. So some of you will recognize this as a Warhammer Tau Hammerhead tank, I suppose it's called. So I'm doing this. This is an old Warhammer model that I had. I've got several of these. But I actually started filming on this and got completely distracted of doing this like a scale modeler. And then, of course, Night Shift did his recent one. And I'm just like, God damn it, if I do it now, everybody's going to think I copied him. I won't say I thought of it first, because I'm sure loads of people have thought of doing that. But the reason it's got grey bits on here is obviously I took an old model. As you can see it under here, look. And obviously I've filled and smoothed, because these kits, you know, they're okay, but quite often they don't fit together 100%. You can see the amount of filler I've had to use here, for instance, on this scene. But they're quite fun. And they give good opportunities for weathering and stuff. So I'll put that at some point. What else do I have? I don't think I've got anything here roundabout. Oh, I have. So the Firebee. I did the flashy Firebees review last week, I think. This is one of them. So I'm going to do a 1 hour build of this. And by 1 hour build, I mean one of my crazy, I'm going to complete it in 1 hour. So just to kind of prove the point of the cool little Mojo kits. So I built the other one in 45 minutes at the shop. I primed it in Mr. Hobby Pink, Mr. Hobby 1500 Pink primer, finishing surface or whatever it's called. I'm waiting. I need to message Moss because he was supposed to bring me some of the Outlaw Pink primer to the show on Sunday, and he forgot. He was meant to send it. I haven't got it yet. So I'm going to build this. I probably won't do it on a live stream because doing a 1 hour build on live stream is too stressful. Not necessarily stressful, it's just too difficult. Because with a 1 hour build, you kind of need all of your wits about you. You can't be thinking about other stuff. You've got to concentrate on what you're doing. So I don't really want to do it on a live stream. But I will time it. I'll have my little timer there. And build this, prime it in Outlaw Pink, paint it and decal it within an hour. I think that's achievable. They're nice little kits. And yeah, I would thoroughly recommend. I really enjoyed doing the one because there's no cockpit. You can just slam it together and then paint it up. They've got nice, bright schemes. And, you know, there's not loads of tiny little fiddly bits. You know, there's some smaller pieces, but they're not particularly tiny. You know, they're all manageable. You know, it's a cute little thing. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing probably next week, I imagine. I was hoping to kind of do it this week, but I need the primer. And then the other thing that I will do as kind of a second video is compare Outlaw Pink Primer to Mr. Hobby Finishing Surfacing Primer, whatever it's called. Because obviously I've got the opportunity, I've got the two models. They're both red and yellow, so it's a perfect comparison piece for that. So, oh, and there's a tiny little, tiny little trolley. I mean, it's kind of like a hand cart. Not very much at all. I also am going to be with me. So a couple of things. I really have to get this build video out. I keep coming to it. I keep getting distracted. It's so close to being done. I just need to get on and do the last little couple of pieces. It's the ICM Beaufort. No. It's the ICM Beaufort in South African colours. Ferret, really nice kit. I really enjoyed building it, actually. Full interior. You could really go to town on it if you wanted. This is all out of the box as well. I haven't glued these on. These are just literally, these are just push fit. I haven't actually glued them, which is why they're coming out there. But beautiful kit. You want a Beaufort. You want something a bit bigger than the Airfix kit. I mean, I think ICM is really the only kit in town, but it's so nice. There we go. Just fitted that in. Really lovely kit. But I need to get that one out. Yeah, the double Lewis gun turret there. Don't want to lose that flap. And we talked about it last night. We also have, this is that Walterson's stroke Forces of Valor 190. Well, that's obviously an Airfix Spitfire. But I want to build this just to see, you know, if the fit is reasonable. the engraving looks heavy. I think it looks heavier on the video than it actually is, because you can see it's fairly good, the engraving on it. In fact, because we've got the Spitfire here, you can probably see, the comparison between them. It's, I would say, more refined. Well, it is more refined than that Spitfire. Do an extreme close-up. That's the Spitfire engraving. That's the engraving on the Mortison's kit. So, yeah, I think be an interesting exercise to build this and see what it's like. But again, that's a small thing to do, not a huge one. Take that off. This was obviously what I used for the video that I did on colours, the painting by numbers one. That's why it's got. There we go. Although actually, I don't think I've done this before. This is using the colours that I came up with from the, like choosing it from the picture. So you can see kind of what I came up with compared to what the manufacturers suggested. Pretty different. So I'm going to follow up with a video which actually paints. I think I'll probably do one side in the recommended Humbrol colours and then one side in what I would have chosen to show you the difference. I just need to find the sprue that's got the rest of the cockpit floor on. Somerset show video. The Somerset show video was inspired by the on the sprue build you showed. Is that me? Did I show it on the sprue build? Or was that somebody else? I may have just missed it. Anyway, guys, we are coming up now to the 2-hour mark. 40 seconds to go. So thank you all for tuning in and watching the beast. I mean, just to give you an idea, this is a 1/48 scale World War II, light bomber. And this is the 1/72nd scale Valkyrie. That kind of puts it into perspective, right? That is huge. Huge. We've actually got the Beaufort on top of it, and the Beaufort's rear horizontal stabilizers go between the vertical stabilizers of the Valkyrie. Mad. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Take care, and hopefully see you at the premiere for the Marauder 26 hours and 26 minutes video. Okay, guys. Thanks. Cheers now.